It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, June 30th, and so happy for you joining us, and we are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have another exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday message word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And you guys must be ecstatic. It's Friday. Yes, it's Friday. For me, it is my Friday too, because it's the last podcast of the week for me, and it's Thursday afternoon. Well, it's still Thursday morning for me right now, but I am so thankful and so happy. It is a good day, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed your week thus far. Looking forward to the weekend. If you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like and a comment to build our community. Really happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So you guys are just amazing for supporting and, just making this really, really transparent and awesome community. Even for me. I just got a text today from another listener, and they're just telling me how thankful they are for the word studies, Provi in the media and such, and the different things that shaped or changed their minds in different areas or made them realize. And for me, I'm going to tell you guys right now, whenever I see those types of comments, just about certain things that they've realized from the podcast or how they have, their perception has changed in certain matters. That is one of the most encouraging things for me, and it makes it worth it for me to be doing this 5 days a week. This is one of the biggest things for me. I'm just like, wow, this is so amazing that a podcast, or even more than this, it's just this this medium that God has created for us. Isn't it so amazing that I can be sitting here in Vancouver recording these things, and it's reaching out to 12 different countries with English-speaking members from around the world in Providence, and we're all on the same page because we all listen to the same word. We all have the same goal, and we're trying to figure out what's the best way to do these things. And I am super grateful and thankful that God has given us this technology. This is it's interesting because people are listening to it while I'm sleeping, which means that I record this once, and I don't have to keep repeating it over and over and over again, but it's just recorded, put on YouTube, and whoever wants to listen to it can listen to it at their time, which means I'm working while I'm sleeping, which is quite amazing. Either way, so super grateful and thankful. Thank you guys for always encouraging me. And a lot of times when I read your texts about how this is affecting you guys, I can actually hear God through it, and God saying, "Good job. Keep going. Don't give up. You got to keep doing this." Right. So I am thankful for all of you guys that write me those awesome texts and DMs and comments and stuff too, because it makes my day, it makes my week, it makes my everything. It's awesome because the most important thing for me is I listen to it, I get inspired, but I can hear God through it. So that's an even better thing for me. So it is the weekend, guys. It's the weekend. What do you guys have planned? Right? I'm excited because tomorrow is July 1st. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Today's the last day of June. It's officially the last day of June. Tomorrow, excited because we have a barbecue at Church for Canada Day. So I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to some good barbecue and celebration. A lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time. So I'm just happy, right? The Americans will have their July 4th. But we have our July 1st, and it's going to be an amazing and awesome weekend. So I'm excited to enjoy my time in the sun with members, and it feels just, it's good to just socialize again for me. I'm the one who's very, very social, but I kind of realize that I'm the one holding myself back from socializing. And it's just, even last week going to church and seeing people and seeing other members from the Korean ministry and stuff like that, I haven't seen in such a long time. That is something that, it's very therapeutic just to be able to talk to people. Now, this is something interesting because we had I put a poll question up, right? And you guys saw the poll question for traditional versus the modern roles in the family. And it's quite interesting because the difference between men and women, like their views, like, obviously I'm not gonna look at the percentages as in like, oh, only 50, because, there's more girls than guys listening to this podcast anyways. But it's interesting to see the difference, like the disparity in, like, this is interesting. There are, I think, 33% more men, right? No, it's like 50%. 50% more men want the traditional role, right? So these are members and stuff, right? So 50% more than don't want to do it. And then for women, it's roughly about 60% of women want the modern roles in a marriage, right? So it's very interesting how you see it's very different where 50% more men want the traditional and 60% of women who voted wanted the non-traditional or the more modern roles. And I think that's huge, I think. 60% more women want modern and 50% more men want traditional. Because if you think about it, that means like 60% of the women are going to have a very hard time finding like the right person to marry. 60% will find the right. It would be hard because 50% of men more, not just 50%. So it's not half and half, right? So it's about 15. If it's like 20, give me 1 second. Let me just get this calculation right here. Just to get this right. Oh, same thing. 60% of men. 60% of men want traditional and 60% of women want like modern. Not easy, right? That's not going to be easy on either side, right? Because, it means that the majority of women may have a very, very hard time finding a non-traditional man. And you're going to have like 60% of men might have a hard time finding a traditional woman, right? Which means that, like, say, let's just go by percentages. If 40% of women want a tradition, like they're okay with a traditional role, then there's like 50% of men, 60% of men, it means that there's going to be a gap of people that are not going to be able to find, right? A proper partner. And this is interesting not only here on like in MSD, but also like when we look at like America, it's kind of the same case too, that the woman's expectations of relationship and men's expectations are completely different, right? As the women are becoming more and more modern. So, we have to think to ourselves as people of this history, more than what the world is thinking, we have to be thinking deeply about what is the thing that God has wanted. Right? And that's the thing that we have to think about more than what our personal preference is. What is the way that God wants it? Because here are some things that I think that give us a little bit of hint or give us a hint of ourselves, the position, whether we take the position too strong of our own preference rather than what God has stated the role for. Like, let me give you some examples. Haven't you heard Sunseem multiple times talk about things where people in today's society would say, oh, that's misogynist, right? Like, well, Sunseem's like, oh, and the wife should be cooking and doing this, and this, and the bride should be doing this for the husband. The bride should have nothing. And he does say those types of things. And it does point, I wouldn't say fully, but it does point towards a traditional role, which is very, very interesting because we have to think to ourselves is, well, when you hear Sunseem say those things, what are you thinking? You know what I mean? Like, are you upset when you hear it? Do you think the word is wrong? Do you think Sunseem is just old-fashioned? Or do you think twice about your own thoughts and whether you're thinking right or wrong? Because I think it would be just as, I think it's just as anything else that Sunseem says, like lifestyle, what is right and what is wrong. We come to church to figure out what the right thing is, what God really wants, right? More than what I want. And that's kind of this week's message. One wrong thought will lead you down, will change your destiny. And I think it's very unhealthy with anything in the word to think that the word must be wrong more than I am wrong, right? And I think it's something that we do, both men and women have to step back and think about, okay, so these are my personal preferences, but ultimately, why do we come to church? Why do we believe these different things? It's because we need to figure out the proper way that God intended things to be, right? which is quite interesting because this whole week is about traditional versus modern woman, and Provipuff just came out with their episode on traditional versus modern woman this yesterday afternoon. So if you guys listen to that, you're gonna get like the guys talked about it on Monday, and then the girls talked about it on Thursday, and now we have men and women talking about it in two different ways. And I think it's very interesting to see the difference between the women and the men's minds, right? And I think that's something that we do have to think about much more deeply also, right? And for me, I'm just like, oh, wow, there is a huge difference. Like, it's huge. And I hope it's something that we can really be able to work out even more properly. Like I said, not about us, not about our thoughts. Like this week's message says, we got to figure out what God's thoughts are. I had this I had this great conversation with a friend. I haven't talked to this friend in a long time. And he was telling me about a newcomer that he's teaching. And the newcomer's awesome. Just very, very into the Bible, holy, all these other different things. And the only one thing that was a little bit difficult was this guy had a girlfriend, right? And, the story is this guy had a girlfriend and, he's always kind of had a girlfriend. And he kind of, he's a very, very righteous person who believes in the Bible. He reads the Bible really well. And he even quotes Paul saying that it's better to get married, if you have these, if you have that desire to get married, it's better for you to be married, right? And so this person has a girlfriend. So the question that came up is very, very interesting. Our discussion came into, what's the proper thing to do about this situation? And I think I talked about this maybe 2 years ago. And I think one of the things that maybe in the past, our goal was to, we got to make sure that they break up. We can't teach this person if they have a girlfriend or boyfriend. And, there's kind of that type of thinking. Right? And the question came up is like, we're talking about how should we go about this? And I gave them a certain story that, there was a newcomer that I was teaching, same situation, but this person was even up to the point they had a fiance, right? Which is even closer. Like they're about to get married the next year kind of thing. And what we did was, I think the ultimate thing, the most important thing that matters is not whether they're single or married. It's not about whether they are, they have a boyfriend or girlfriend or not. I don't think that's the big issue. I think the ultimate issue we have to think about is isn't it better for these people to be saved rather than, they can't have a boyfriend, so we can't teach this person anymore. What should we do? We can't pass this person anymore, right? Like, isn't the ultimate goal to love, and isn't the ultimate goal to save people, right? Are we going to have, it would be ideal if they weren't. However, when you look at the world today, has anything ever worked out in an ideal way where you find that perfect person, or does everyone have their issues and their problems? Everyone does. And one thing that happened is I had a newcomer when I was head leading, and this person had a fiance. They're going to marry the next year, right? This newcomer was awesome. Like very, very into the Bible. They've always loved God. They've loved Jesus. Their family, pioneered a church with the pastor in the town that they were living in, stuff like this guy was awesome, right? And in the end, the decision was, you know what? This person is so good, it doesn't matter whether this person gets married and comes in as JS or not. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is this person needs to be saved, right? And this person is good. So already, even before, probably a halfway or 3/4 into this person studying, we already accepted this person as JS already. We're like, it's okay. It's okay if he gets married. And that took a lot of, and one thing that's awesome about that is that I found out it takes a burden off your shoulders. Because if you're, think about it, you're teaching, then on top of it, it's about breaking up the boyfriend and girlfriend. I think that's, I think that's too much. And I think that's more like our thinking more than God's thinking. Like some people, they're just in a situation that's different than others. Some people have been through other different things in their life than other people. And yeah, sometimes it's better they do that they do get married. They'll be more stable, right? And I truly think that, yes, there are going to be some ideal people out there, but I am going to say that probably half or more than half are not going to be in ideal situations. And I don't think it's the right move to make that one of your goals to break them up. I don't think that really is, because in the end, they can be the ones that do what they can come they can kind of like hold the grudge against you for the future, right? Because that was your goal. And people feel it, that, oh, this is not the right thing, you shouldn't be with this person, kind of thing. Like, there are some newcomers that have in the past that I saw have boyfriends and girlfriends, and you just know it's toxic, and you're like, whoa, this is just not healthy for them. But it's not about, I have to split them up. No, because this should be done by the Holy Spirit. If it's true, if it's, these things, it should be done by the Holy Spirit. It shouldn't be done by us. We're not the ones pushing it, because we don't know what is right for this person, what we don't know what is right for this person. And I think that in the future, we're going to have to think about Christianity too. You have all types of people coming to church, but they're, because they've matured as a religion, it's very, very easy for them to handle all these different types of situations, right? And I do think that as Providence history altogether, we have kind of grown to a mature stage where we can handle more than just the absolute pure, only people looking to find the Lord's second coming kind of thing, right? Like, I think we've reached beyond that point where in the future, when the churches begin to open up, I've said this before, it's going to happen. People are going to be coming to church church is going to be very, very public. Anyone can come to church. Newcomers are going to come with their girlfriends, with their boyfriends, fiancés, whatever it is. And I don't think that's our duty or anything else to do that. And what even happened with this, the newcomer that I was teaching was, I said nothing about it. We taught the girlfriend, the fiancé too, everything else. We did our best for both of them. But in the end, what happened? In the end, this person, received their inspiration. And their inspiration was, I can't be with this person if they don't come to this history. That was their inspiration. We never touched it, right? That's up to them. That's their personal life. If they ask for advice from me, I might give some advice on, what are some things that they need to think about, but I wouldn't even sit there and tell them, oh, you got to break up. I don't think it's our right to do that, right? This is people, if there really is free will, there must be free will. And if people want to know, what's the easiest way, these are the pros and cons. But I can't sit there and say that everything is a con because you have a fiance. You can't. Because what if that's the best way for this person to come? Some people come as JS, right? Does that mean it's wrong because they're JS? No, it's just because, it's like that was the best time for them. And in that situation where they're much more stable, in that situation they have kids and all the and other things like this, it is much easier and better for them to come to this history. So we had a great conversation about this, and it's something I do think a lot of us have to think about is, we're not going to always have the most ideal newcomers. But ultimately, if the person is really good, like this week's message talks about these great people, but having a girlfriend or boyfriend or fiance or whatever it is, doesn't mean that this person is not a good person or not a good candidate to be evangelized. Like, there's great people out there who are married. There's great people out there who are not single. And I do think we have to be the ones that are mature about it. Like, one of the things I thought was kind of really, really weird is kind of how we kind of self-baby ourselves. What does that mean? It's like, oh, but if someone comes with their girlfriend, it's going to affect other people and they're going to want to have girlfriends and boyfriends. And I'm like, are they that immature? Really? That's the level that we have, is that if I look at someone with a girlfriend, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to have a girlfriend now. Oh, I'm so affected. I'm tempted. I'm going out right now. Now, are there some people that will be? Yeah, there will be, but you're not going to stop everything, right? And I think it's something that has to do with what is the level and maturity of this history now. I think we're far different than we were before. And it's something that we do have to think about much more deeply. I really, really believe this. Some people might be saying, oh, Pastor Sky, you're going a little bit too far. And I'm going to be like, well, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of people babying or putting people in a bubble too much that we get affected by every small thing. Right. One of the things I see even more now when it comes to Providence is, this might sound a little crazy, not crazy, but Providence people, because we're so sheltered, we're like naive. And we get affected by these things you should never be affected by. And you're like, you're affected by that? Like, come on, right? And you just realize it's because we're put in a bubble sometimes where you can't look, you can't see, you can't like you can't even you can't even understand that it's there. Like you're at church, but when you go into the world every day, you see it all the time and you're not affected by it. You go to work, they have their girlfriends and their wives and everything else, and you're not sitting there like, oh my gosh, I wish I had one right now. Oh, I want a girlfriend. Oh, I want a girlfriend right now. Like we're not going like that. It's like that's just part of life. That's what's happening, right? But I do think, of course, I'm not saying open it up, like, just open the doors and let, all the wild animals in kind of thing. What I'm saying is I think there's got to be a shift in our perception. And I do think, do you remember, when Sunstein was out in 2018 to 2020, when he was out, 2018 to 2019? Sunstein was at one point, he was so open. He's like, yeah, bring everyone. Bring everyone to Wilmington. I'll do tours for them. It doesn't matter if they have boyfriends. Doesn't matter if they're girlfriends, homosexual, whatever it is. Bring them. He even said that, and people are like, oh, right? It's like, wow, kind of thing. But the honest answer is we kind of reached that level, but people are still kind of. I think we're thinking a little bit backwards. So I'm not saying just go ahead and open the floodgates. Why? Because each church is different with their situation, circumstance, and their level. But I say in general, we have grown up a lot more than we really have. Than we think. I think we've grown up and matured a lot. And I do think we can handle a lot more than we think. Right? I'm a very, very big advocate that Providence is mature. Right? Even when we become adults, there's such thing as a young adult, right? That's learning how to become an adult because they're young and then they're growing into adulthood and growing into maturity, right? And I do think even now we've become adults in Providence and we may be young adults just learning how to let things go and such and becoming more and more responsible. But I do believe that is something that we have reached that stage. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, I really, really think that it's something that we need to change in our hearts and our thoughts. Boyfriend, girlfriend, fiancés, I'm going to tell you now, I don't think that should be your goal to break them up. I don't think so. It just causes unnecessary stress and burden on yourself and on that newcomer, right? And I think we got to pray about it and put in God's thoughts. If God is a person who would leave the 99 behind just for that one person, don't you think that God would be upset if you threw someone away, or if you're like, oh no, we can't pass this. No, we're not going to teach this person anymore because they wouldn't break up with their girlfriend or boyfriend. I don't think that's what God would do, right? And I hope it's something that all of us, will really look at carefully. I'm not saying scrap all your standards, but I'm saying that, hey, some of these people are amazing. They're awesome, and sometimes it's better for them to be in that situation, or it's harder for them anyways, right? So those are just kind of the thoughts that this conversation we had, and I think it's something that we do have to think about even more, right? You guys can write in the comments below, and you can write that I'm wrong. I don't mind, right? A lot of times people think that, I've had a comment before where someone's like, oh, I erased my comment. I was like, oh, why? I'm like, why'd you erase it? They're like, oh, I thought I offended you. It's like, oh, don't worry about that. The whole point of the comment section is for us to understand different points of view, right? And sometimes we do have different points of view, and sometimes people do get angry, and that's okay. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to vent every once in a while. And even when you do it, I do think, one thing I know about myself is, and when I look at myself and my path in the last 25 years, I'm still in progress. I'm in process still. I'm still in process. I got things to fix, and I have till the end of my life to fix them, and I'm working on it, and I'm not going to be perfect. And I think that's the same thing that we all have to look at each other as is, hey, we've got issues, we've all got issues, we're all in process, we're going to make mistakes, and guess what, we say sorry, everything's okay, and we move forward. And I think that's a very, very important, that's kind of like the right mindset to look at these different things too, either way. So last thing before, I do have a new trailer for you guys today, a new movie trailer. So I'll get into that in a second. But very, very important. The 21-day prayer condition, we are on day 3 now on this Friday. But One thing you need, I was talking about this yesterday, but this 21-day prayer condition is that important, right? So I'm not sure. Some people told me that they didn't even hear about the 21-day prayer condition. These 21 days leads until the last trial of Sunsteam, which is July 18th. So July 18th is the last trial, and that's something I do think that we have to dig deep into, right? Because it's the last trial before the verdict. So that last trial is on July 18th, and then they'll make a decision. All right? So this 21-day prayer condition is like the final condition before this trial ends. So I really hope that all of us are going strong in this and make sure we get up and we pray for this condition to happen. It's something I do think the more power, the more people we have praying for this, the better things are going to turn out. Okay? All right. So, yeah, I have a brand new trailer, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this one. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the Empire moves forward and rebel forces are being held back in the planet of Naboo. The rebel pastor continues to push forward, even at the expense of his own life, to find a secret treasure. He moves on to the forest moon of Endor in search of this rare and valuable treasure that is said to enhance the use of the Force and even create new life. In the depths of the forest, he is ambushed by stormtroopers, and he has no choice but to run. As he flees for his life, he falls into a pit. Later he wakes up, and he sees that he has stumbled upon a humble dwelling. And behold, he finds the secret treasure, that rare and valuable treasure that is able to even create life. What is that treasure? That treasure is the traditional wife. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. I had to do a little play on all the stuff that we've been talking about this week. All right. So there it is, guys. Hope you enjoyed that that trailer, and we will get into our first break for the day.
Yeah, rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth fastened, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying. Everyone thinks I lost, but now I'm turning Super Saiyan. I gotta be new, gotta be great, I only gotta win this thing. Fix mistakes, fix who I am, all I wanna do is change. Gotta be brave, gotta be tough, no more time for delaying. It's just training, all those times of pain, off, pushing my limits. Only God. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to feel God. Enemies watching. They want you to fall. But you have to be better. You have to give it your all. Every day I make myself, but I know it's not easy. This is the life I chose, and I know my spirit's breathing. The battle has only begun, and I may take damage. But if I fall, I only know how to do one thing. Rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth fastened, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying. Everyone thinks I lost, but now I'm turning Super Saiyan. I'm Goku turning Super Saiyan. I'm charged up, now I'm playing. On the mount like Sinai, I can live with God like Wi-Fi. Receive the word, always praying. Spiritual path where I'm staying. Everyone thinks I lost, but I'm always with him, so you know I'm prevailing. Protecting myself from Satan, armed with the truth, now my angels will shoot like. Now I'm at my truest form. I'm trying to really be the greatest. The power level can't contain it. My energy is never draining. Look how far we have made it. Unlocking levels, never hesitated. There's no try, you can just do it or don't. So fix your thoughts instead. Everybody makes mistakes, just gotta take notes. Can afford to do it again. Life is so easy if you just do what is right and just follow what's real. Victory comes through skill. Gotta stay on course, time to kill. Now's the time to rise and shine. Thinking of the past and then forget. God and Lord by your side. Hold your hand, dry your eyes. Trust the Lord every night and day. He'll never let you go, don't fall away. Be bold, be brave, and with all your heart. Love the Lord to the end of time. Rise up to the challenge. Armed with the word in action. Held to the truth, fasten. Shield of faith in one hand. Sword of the spirit, I'm slaying. No mercy, I'm praying. Everyone thinks I lost, but I'll turn Super Saiyan.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that little break right there. So let's get into today's word study. Of course, every single Friday, we have the Wednesday message word study. And some people ask me, like, why do you do it on Fridays? Why don't you do it on Thursday? Because remember, I'm always a day behind. So when I do the Thursday podcast, when I'm recording it, I haven't even listened to the Wednesday message yet. So that's why I always save this Wednesday message word study for Fridays. Okay, so let's get into it. Great message. I was really, really impressed. And I realized a lot listening to this Wednesday message. It's a great topic, great message this week. People live by their thoughts, so make your thoughts perfect and then act, right? And the intro that I heard was awesome, right? And I think one of the biggest things that we have to think about to ourselves as human beings is, what is the limitation of the human thought? You know what I mean? Like, of yourself, what is the limitation? If you took action by your own thoughts, how limited or how low would the result be? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at our thoughts and God's thoughts, we always say, oh, well, God's thoughts are much greater than our thoughts. But if you really want to take a look at it, look at your thoughts. And when you put your thoughts into action, it only affects usually one or two people. However, when you take action according to God's thoughts, what is created? History is made. And can you imagine the difference between those two things? Where you make history according to your own thoughts, it only affects you and maybe one or two other people. But when God is taking action, when we do things according to God's thoughts, history is made. People don't make history. It's God that makes history. And that's the difference in level that we have no idea. We can't even comprehend what's happening. So think about this. When God takes action, his actions are so much higher than ours, we can't even comprehend it, but we would judge it or misjudge it in the wrong way. We can't comprehend because our thoughts are so limited, we can't even think about the outcome of what God's actions are. So let's kind of compare the things that happened 2,000 years ago. When Jesus died, right? Can you imagine what the disciples and the people of Jesus were thinking at that time? Or even after Jesus died, there was 400 years of persecution. Do you think anyone could comprehend what would happen at the end of those 400 years? That Christianity would become the state religion? That is God's history level. It required martyrdom. It required persecution. It required for these things to happen in order for Christianity to become the state religion of Rome. That's something we can't comprehend because we would be thinking, like, think about how we think right now. Oh my gosh, we don't know what's going to happen. What's going to happen here? I don't know what's going to, it's just so bad right now. I'm so worried. I'm so stressed. But it's because we can't comprehend the level of God's thoughts. Can we really understand what God is doing? God has already thought about this very time we're living in right now from the very beginning of time when he was creating the entire universe millions and billions of years ago. And when we look at the things that God does, we misunderstand because we're like, man, this is so ordinary. This is something we can't, what's going on? Think about this. What about insects in the world? We look at insects and they're so insignificant to the human mind that we'd have to go into a documentary to really understand it, right? But think about this. God even used insects like ants to teach Sunsteam of how God works in the world, that they need a mediator. They need the Messiah, right? That central figure, right? To teach the people. Insects, so insignificant, but yet in God's history, Sunsteam needed those ants so that he can realize this is how God works. Rocks are ordinary. They're a dime a dozen. but they take billions and billions, like millions and billions of years to be formed. And yet they're used for this very time for the natural temple. Like this is how much we cannot comprehend the level of God's thinking and what can happen through that thinking. And that's why when I heard this introduction, I'm just like, wow, that's powerful. That really is. And of course, the person, the preacher didn't just preach it like I did, but there were so many thoughts he was saying. It just triggered these thoughts into my mind. I'm just like, wow, it's so, we can't even comprehend the difference between our thoughts and God's thoughts. So when we get into the message was based on the Proverbs that were given, right? And, one of the big points is your thoughts are so important that your thoughts will change the outcome. That's how big it is. If your thoughts are positive, then the outcome will be made positive. And that's true. Because when someone is positive, even when negative things happen, they can still see the positive things through it. And this is the effect that our thoughts have on our life. Where if you're negative, even if a good thing happens, you only see the negative parts about it, and you don't even think it's good in the first place. So this is a thing that we have to look at and say, yeah, we have to really change our thoughts. One thing that I thought was a very great point is that the difference between God's thoughts and our thoughts is whenever we sin, we run. Like we don't even want to look at God. We want to run away. And I think that's something that's possibly even happening right now with people who have come against this history, right? Who have, all of a sudden turned and slandered, and they realize that they're wrong, but it's very, very hard for them to run back because the first thoughts they have is, I have sinned. Can God even forgive me for all the things that I've done? And they'll run away instead. And I also think it's we don't make it much easier either. What does that mean? It means that, because our thoughts are much lower than God's, and God wants to save that one and leave the 99 behind, right? That we're the ones who won't forgive. We're the ones who say, you know how much you did, you know how many people you took out of province, and they'll start screaming stuff at these people, right? And we won't forgive. But God's thoughts is, I want to forgive these people. I want them to come back. I want you to be forgiven. And that's a huge difference between our thoughts and God's thoughts. It's a big question sometimes is how do you, like some people will ask me, how do you keep talking to those people that slandered against Sunseam and stuff? And I think that is the difference in thinking where, look at this week's message is, hey, God doesn't want these people to be condemned. But even those who have come against him and even took people out, God still wants them to be saved. God still wants them to be saved. That's a huge difference. Our thoughts is like, oh, we're here to protect God so you don't get hurt again. So we're going to make sure that this person doesn't come back to Providence. And the answer is no way. That's not God's thoughts. God's thoughts is I want them to come back. Right? And even for me, I learned this lesson a long time ago is we can't just throw people away because God would never do that. Remember, when did Jesus die for all humankind? It's while we were still sinners. We got to understand what that means. It means that they weren't even on his side. While still sinning, Christ died for us. The issue of sin was resolved through love. The human thought, the human mind is run away from the situation. But if we understand love, what's going to happen? You want them to come back. You go out and search for them, just like the shepherd goes out to search for the lost sheep. How many of us will go out and actually search for the ones that went against us? Our wrong thinking is if we avoid God, then we don't have to deal with it. Or, I feel too ashamed. But no, if you avoid God, you keep suffering. And that's where the big proverb from this week is, if you think wrong, you're going to die. The thing that kills us the most is our own thinking, right? It's our own thoughts that look and say, oh, the man of mission is wrong. Oh, he's thinking wrong. No, it's your thoughts. See, it's when we sin. When we sin is when we start to drift away from God. And when we sin is when we start thinking differently from God. And that's why we got to check our thoughts. When our thoughts are wrong, we're just determined to see what we want to see. Like my best example, once again, full transparency, showing you that, I went through some stuff because of online service. I thought that was, I'm fine. My thoughts were wrong. Got to check your thoughts. And then what's going to happen is I think, oh yeah, you know what? I got to do it online because I have this podcast to do on Sundays and this, and this. And you know what the crazy part was? Like, yeah, it's true. I do podcasts and I have to get it out by 2:30 p.m. And you're like, oh, well, service is at 10 and then it ends at around 11:30. And then you're talking to people. I won't get home it's not enough time. But you know what the crazy part is? When I actually flipped my thoughts, I'm just like, well, I was watching service at 7 a.m. Online, but I'm like, no, I still wake up. I still wake up early. And I go prepare my podcast first before I go to church. I go to church from 10 to 11. I talk to people for a little bit. I get home by 12:30, and I have enough time to record. It's just a difference in order. It wasn't, and that's the thing. It's perfect. It's saying that people are determined to see what they want. Because I'm like, there's no other way to do this. But there is plenty of ways. It's just I wanted to see what I wanted to see. So this is why we need to pray. God, please, let me see things not according to my own thoughts, but yours. We got to think as, the body of the Lord. And the crazy part is, the longer we keep those thoughts, the more damage we get. The longer we keep those thoughts, like here's an interesting proverb that came out is, if your thoughts get sick, guess what? Your body and actions get sick too. Think about it. Isn't that crazy? If your thoughts get sick, your body and actions get sick. So you're going to actually physically get sick. And the longer we have sick thoughts, sick body, and sick actions, it leads to our problems getting bigger and bigger over time. Right? And I looked at that, I was like, yeah, it's such a, the Wednesday message was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. And when the message was talking about what is ugly, right? When something is ugly, like remember, let's take a look at the reality of all the people in Providence. Is there anyone ugly in Providence, like physically speaking? And the answer is no. There is no one that is ugly in Providence. I haven't seen a single person that's ugly. Yeah, everyone is roughly average. Like we're all average, a little above and a little below. And there's so few people that are like drop dead handsome, drop dead gorgeous. Very, very few. Right? As much as we like to think of ourselves as pretty and good looking, in most cases we're average. We really are just average. Right? A little above, a little below. Right? And when Sunsteam says what is ugly is hard to look at, ugly is like ugly. Like sometimes you'll find her really ugly, be like, oh, and you don't even want to look at that person. And of course, it's true. Why do people, when it comes to social media, we flock to these people that are good looking? Because beautiful things are pleasant to look at. But then he flips the script and says, you know what? The issue is not actually the physical beauty, but it's your actions. That's what God looks at of what is pretty and ugly. So just as when we look at a very hideously ugly person, it's hard to be with that person, right? Or to look at that person or look at them, right? But he says, in the same way, God sees it the same way when it comes to your actions. It doesn't matter about your physical looks. It's not a big deal. It is your actions. What do you do with your behavior? And it's true with us too. There could be very, very beautiful people, but if their behavior is, there are some people who have ugly behavior, shouting and screaming and cussing and doing this and that, and it's unbearable. You just don't want to be, like that person's nice to look at, but you don't want to be with that person. And that's how we have to see it from God's perspective, right? The salvation that we have is dependent upon our actions and the things that we think, our thoughts and actions. That is the thing that determines our salvation. That's what the Holy Trinity looks at, is what are our actions, right? And that's something that you have to think about a little bit more deeply is, yeah, what are your actions? Are you doing the things that God wants? Are you living the righteous life? What parts of your actions do you need to fix? The way you think about others, when you judge others, when you say bad things about others, when you're saying, even when I look at these people who have left, or like people who we had a lot of trust in before, but now they're slandering all these other different things, there's no point in saying bad things about them. There really isn't. There's no point. If anything else, it's a sign that we need to fix our thoughts first, because our actions are based on our thoughts. And that's something that we have to look at and say, wow, if we're already judging these people, then that's a thought you need to fix about yourself, right? This is a time we're living in when we're hearing God, like we're hearing exactly what God's thoughts are. And to know how powerful that is, to be listening to God's thoughts, like that is the most powerful thing we have right now, because God's thoughts are so high level and so perfect. Yes, we may not be able to understand or comprehend how big it really is, but that's how amazing it is. And this is why a lot of times we fall for temptation, because we judge God's thoughts as not so high, and we turn to our own thoughts. And this is when we fall into temptation. Like right now, what is Sunstein praying for? He's praying for people that left to come back. He's praying for them. And the big question is, if we are supposed to be like the one God sent, are we praying for them to come back? Right? What if they were deceived? What if they thought incorrectly? Right? Isn't it better for us to pray for them to come back instead? If we think according to our own thoughts, we die. If our actions are ugly, then our thoughts are ugly. And ultimately, that's what God looks at to see whether someone is pretty or ugly, whether they're pleasant to look at or hideous and don't want to look at them. We have to understand that what in heaven, the way that the message put it is, there's nothing ugly in heaven. What is ugly? It is hideous actions, ugly thoughts, ugly actions. Those are the things. And that's why we have to be those that don't have to worry as much. I'm not saying like don't take care of your physical features at all. It's more of, what is the thing God is looking at when he looks at you? In the end, like say, like, when marriage becomes a big part of our lives, right? When you get married, ultimately, in the end, it's going to be their character and their actions are going to be the things that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. That is the ultimate thing that we're going to see. That is. And later on, those looks are not going to be as important. They're not. And that's why we have to be those that are wise, right? What God has done, we have to value as much as it is we have to value what God has done for us. We have to value God himself, and we have to value the words and put it into action. There was an interesting slide that came out about the mountain ranges. And honestly, at the very beginning when I listened to it for the first time, I was like, I couldn't really understand why it was that big. Like, what? Like, it's like, oh, realize how great this is, right? And I was like, oh, and I was listening to it. I was looking at the pictures, but the one thing that threw me off is listening to like the names of the mountains. Oh, this is the Noryung Range, and this is here, and this is there. And honestly, for me, that stuff means nothing to me. It kind of just felt like names being spit out. And I'm like, okay, but why is this important? Why is this so great, kind of thing, right? And it came down to thoughts. Right? In the end, I'm like, okay, so what is this actually saying? And I had to talk to another pastor in Korea, like, why is this so big? And they're like, well, if you look at the largest, like the mountain ranges in the world, right? Like the Himalayan mountain ranges and such, it moves into Korea. And at the very, very tip of the largest mountain range in the world is Wolmyeongdong, right? And it's like, that's like the end of a branch where the fruit has been made. Right? And when we think about this, we could be looking at it and saying, oh, that's interesting. Or if we have the thoughts of God, of what God has prepared, even from billions of years ago, then we'll understand how amazing it truly is that there is the largest mountain ranges in the world and they converge on one section. And at the very, very tip of it, what is the fruit of these mountain ranges? It is Wolmyongdong. And we need to understand is like, think about it. One of those ranges is connected to Mount Everest, the largest, mountain in the world. We can't understand it as well. We can't comprehend it, but it's like, this is the difference between God's thoughts and our thoughts. And we have to be those that have to pray, listen to the word, and reach that level. All the time, guys. This week, we have a couple days left, right? No matter what, our hearts have to align with the Holy Trinity, Jesus, and the man of mission's thoughts. So got to keep thinking about the Holy Trinity all the time, right? And we have to be those that discern our thoughts and say, wow, like this is really low level, my thinking. And we have to get into God's thoughts, okay? So yeah, I loved the Wednesday message. Hope you guys loved it too. A lot of different things to think about, but I know that you guys have probably realized a lot of other deeper things also. Either way. So there it is, guys. That is the Wednesday message word study for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means we're going to it leads into our second break for the day.
I will remember the stories you and I have shared, like photographs, they're clear in my mind. I will remember those times became our history, and they're recorded in eternity. Now because of you, I can live without worry or shame, for my whole life has changed. The dreams that we have hoped for until now, the will that we have kept without a doubt, they become my soul's melody, the beautiful song my spirit sings, the days when we took action side by side, the blessings that have now become all mine. I will live eternally, recalling those moments vividly. La 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 la, la 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 la. I will remember forever and more. Now because of you, I can live without worry or shame, for my whole life has changed. The dreams that we have hoped for until now, the will that we have kept without a doubt, they become my soul's melody, the beautiful song my spirit sings, the days when we took action side by side, the blessings that have now become all mine. I will live eternally, recalling those moments vividly. Dreams that we have hoped for until now, the will that we have kept without a doubt,
All right, so let's get into the final segment for today. And of course, this is not just the final segment for today, but it's for the entire week. We have Until the End Mental Health Podcast. This is with Daniel Baker over there in Korea. I hope you guys really enjoy the amazing work he's doing. Just 19 years old. I hope you guys leave a lot of comments for him. Encourage him because he's doing a great job, all right? So let's welcome Daniel Baker all the way over there in Korea with Until the End.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. Now today, we're going to have a very interesting podcast because I just want to say this week's Sunday message and Wednesday message was amazing. It's perfect for mental health. I could even say that if there was one message in Providence that you should really study and understand to really improve your mental health, to improve your habits, to improve your thoughts, it's this week's message, right? This week's message was amazing about talking about how to improve your thoughts, how to improve your actions. What does God value in a person? All of these things was given in this week's message, right? And it really got me thinking about my mental health and my bad habits and these bad habits that I know that I need to fix, but I just did not have the courage to. And these bad habits or these things, God has through the Sunday message and Wednesday message, God has given us answers on how to overcome our bad habits. So today we're going to talk about our thoughts, how us humans, how our thoughts ultimately produces action, right? And how our thoughts influences our actions, influences our bad or good habits. Now, it's very interesting because our relationships with our thoughts is very simple, right? It's simple in the way that what we see is what we think about ultimately. What we see, right? If you watch movies, if you watch a lot of YouTube, or if you watch, let's say I'm really into bass fishing and I'm watching a ton of bass fishing content, then there's a good chance that majority of your day is going to be filled with thoughts about what? About bass fishing, right? Because you're constantly using your time to look, to see about this type of topic, right? Now, it could be for good topics and bad topics, right? That's our relationship. If we see good or bad content, then, that's going to cause us to think about those topics more, right? You probably have multiple experiences in your life where if you watch the movie, then the next day or the next half day, you're daydreaming about it. You're thinking, oh man, that was such an amazing movie. And yes, our thoughts are very connected to what we see, right? Now, the amazing thing about our thoughts is it really influences our action, right? This was one big part of the message where our thoughts influences our actions and how we think. This is why thinking is very important and very crucial, right? Because it influences and it determines our actions, right? So let's say you're constantly looking at amazing things about like philanthropy and giving to the poor, taking care of people, and you're very motivated to help other people, then there's a really good chance that your next actions, how you treat people around you, is going to be influenced by your thoughts. That means that, oh, I'm really happy, I really want to help this person. Now let me help this person in a positive way. However, the opposite way is, oh, you're watching a lot of violence on YouTube, video games, or now even though you might think about those violent actions, you might not 100% act on these. However, you will, because those are very stimulating actions, you will constantly act or start acting in a way that is more colder or more negative to other people, right? So our thoughts really influences our actions in really positive ways or even in the opposite negative ways. Now, this is very interesting because when it comes to habits, we can if we understand our thoughts and our patterns, then we're able to overcome our bad habits, right? So one of the amazing ways we can really overcome our bad habits is, this was in this Wednesday message, but the basic gist of one of the proverbs is right before you do a bad habit, right? Let's say I'm one of the bad habits I need to overcome as personally is biting my nails. It's something that I'm 19 years old, and I'm constantly, just unconsciously, whenever I have stress, biting my nails. However, even a simple bad habit like this is a constant battle, right? The battle is won not when you bite on your nails, or the battle is won when you consciously think and you consciously say to yourself, don't bite your nails, right? That's like one rep in the gym, right? If you go to the gym, you're getting stronger by each rep, right? Each time you're saying, nope, I'm not going to do this. Nope. And even though you have this this massive urge to do this bad habit, if you say no, that's one rep and it's one practice to becoming more and more resilient and more, it makes that bad habit have less control over your life, right? And one of the amazing things God said during the message was, right before you do that action or that bad habit, call on Jesus, call on the Holy Trinity. If you call on the Holy Trinity, and let's say right before I bite my nails, and you call on the Holy Trinity, then the Holy Trinity will help you overcome your bad habits, overcome that urge to do that bad habit. That those bad habits that we have can be very unconscious, right? Can feel like someone's controlling us in a way. However, if we call on the Holy Trinity, then I truly believe that we're able to overcome any bad habits, right? One of the things about overcoming your bad habits is, even though sometimes you indulge in the bad habit again, right? That happens. You relapse in a way, right? If you relapse, then you shouldn't, constantly do that bad habit again. But what you should do is start focusing on overcoming the bad habits. Make sure you're consciously, before you have that urge, or when you have that urge, consciously make sure that you are not going to do this action. You say, oh, I'm going to bite my nails. I feel like I really need to bite my nails right now. I'm getting a little stressed. Then say, no, I'm not going to bite my nails. Saying no to your bad habits, over time, it will make you better at managing and overcoming your bad habits. And I really believe that if, the second we have that urge to do our bad habits, if we call on the Trinity and the Holy Spirit, the Holy Son, and Jesus, then I truly believe we're able to overcome our bad habits even at a more alarming rate. So, how do we improve our thoughts? Now, this is the last topic I'm going to go through, and then we're going to wrap up this episode. How do we improve our thoughts, right? In the message this week, the message said, how we see things, the things we perceive, the things we see, those are the things that determine our thoughts, right? Now, as people who want to improve our thoughts, we need to see the word. We need to see more positive things more often. It's like a scale, like, oh, I have 30 minutes of time. What am I going to do with this 30 minutes of time? Am I going to read the Bible, or am I going to go on YouTube and just waste my time? Those little actions, those little times, why did Sensei say that those slivers of times, why are they so important? It's because they add up, right? If you have 20 minutes within your day, like if you have 5 20-minute sections where you can do whatever you want during the day, which I think most of us have, that adds up to a lot of time within the day, right? So what we do during this time really determines how we're going to think, right? It's a very interesting paradox, because our thoughts influences how we act, and our actions influences and our actions and what we see, what we perceive, it influences how we think, right? Now, it is extremely important that during majority of the day, right, that we're staying positive, we're looking at positive things, because if you see stuff that are negative or very dark, then that seeps into your actions. Even though you might not, even though you might play a violent video game, you might not, go outside and murder someone. However, it is very reasonable for Satan to use that kind of thoughts to sour your relationships, or make something have some kind of tragedy happen. Now, those things are very important, taking control of your thoughts, taking control of what you perceive and look. Those are the most important things that I need to improve, and I hope everyone needs to improve. Now, I went to Thailand last week, or I came to Korea a couple days ago, and it's this monsoon season in Korea. So I was like, man, this is very, very uncomfortable. I went to Thailand. Thailand was amazing weather. I only saw rain once, which was very interesting, because Thailand is in its peak monsoon season, and I come to like this massive amounts of rain in Korea, and I was constantly being a little negative about that. And my negative thoughts, made me a little grumpy in the morning. Maybe it, made me a little bit depressed. Those things really add up, right? How we think, the things we perceive are very important. So that's why it's very important to not look at dark stuff, not look at things that is related to the opposite sex. There's reasons why there are limitations that we have, right? Because it also ultimately blocks us, make sure that we are having our perfect thoughts that only God and the Trinity can enjoy, right? Yeah, it was amazing in Thailand. Those amazing mango smoothies. People were amazing. 100% recommend it if you want to go and have a great time in a foreign country. So that's all I have for you guys today. I took enough of your time, and I hope it was positive enough that everyone's able to really think about how they are thinking. And yeah, I hope everyone can take better actions and become the brides that the Trinity has been seeking for 6,000 years. Now, to everyone who is going until the end, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for another wonderful episode of Until the End. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Get some good insights. He is second gen, 19 years old, half Korean, half white, and actually he's half Jewish, I think. And I hope you guys leave some encouragement for him. He's doing such an amazing and great job, all right? Everyone, have an awesome and amazing weekend, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire.